Yeah, welcome. Shalom, Wakazaka, Mashwaka. Welcome to another episode of Script Unveiled right here on GCTV. I remain your host, DJ Yasharala, or as most you can call me Daniel, from the tribe of Yahuda, pardon me. My name is Daniel from the tribe of Yahuda and I am an Israelite. So, sorry for the breaking transmission that we've not been able to come online to teach for a couple of weeks now. You know, even the scripture itself says that in the book of Sirach chapter 2 verse 1, it says, "My son, if you come to serve me, prepare yourself for temptation." You should know that when it comes to this journey of this truth, there will be trials. So for a couple of days, couple of weeks now that I've not been able to come to teach, actually it's based on the trials I've been through. But all praise to the Most High, Hallelujah, Yahuwah, that we are back today to teach. But before we go on today's class, I would like us to go on a short commercial break, as I will be right back. Don't go nowhere. It's still your program, Script Unveiled, with DJ Yasharala.
For sponsorship, advert placement, please call or WhatsApp this number, +234 811 731 0928.
Welcome back. It's still your show, Script Unveiled with DJ Yasharala. And today, we'll be working on a topic I call the Great Reset. And let me just be asking yourself, what does the Great Reset mean? What is it talking about? What are we trying to reset here? But without wasting much time, let us go into the scriptures. We'll start from the beginning, the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12. I'll take verse 1 and verse 2. And it says, "And the Elohim spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." Now, why do you think the Most High Yahuwah, that's the Elohim, will tell Moses and Aaron that month will be the beginning of months? Remember, if you go back in history, we'll go there real quick, you will see what actually happened before this particular event took place. So let's go down there real quick. Genesis chapter 50. The book of Genesis chapter 50. I will take verse 22 for a start. Genesis 50 verse 22. Genesis chapter 50 and verse 22. And it says, "And Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's house lived, and Joseph lived 110 years." Now here, it's talking about how the children of Israel, that's the 12 sons of Jacob, how they find themselves in the land of Egypt, and they lived in the land of Egypt. But after that, what later happened? Exodus chapter 1. We read from verse 6 down to verse 14. It says, "And Joseph died." Remember, earlier we talked about Joseph, that's the children of Israel, that when the Most High took the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, he told Moses and Aaron that this will be the beginning of months for you, the beginning of the year for you. So that means there's something that actually happened in the process before they were out of the land of Egypt, and before the Most High Yahuwah will tell them that when they just left the land of Egypt, it's the beginning of another month. Let's go there. Exodus chapter 1 verse 6, and it says, "And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them." Remember, the children of Israel were not in their own land. They are in the land of Egypt, living with Joseph in the land of Egypt. Look at verse 8. "Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph." Now here's the question. Remember that scripture in Genesis chapter 15 talks about that Joseph lived in the land of Egypt. He and his brothers, he had his father's house, and he lived 100 and so years. But the question is this: for it to say that the generations of children of Israel that they waxed great, so that means they are different coming generations after the generation of Joseph, direct generation. So that means the other generations also, they came as well. But now in verse 8 it says, "There arose a new king out of Egypt," over Egypt, that does not know Joseph. So that means definitely this new king was given birth to after so many generations. Otherwise, if it was to be the nearby generation of Egypt, it would still have known Joseph. But at this point, the children of Israel have waxed so great, they have multiplied, they have filled the land of Egypt for decades, let me use that word, or generations, to the extent that the new king over Egypt does not even know Joseph. Let's see what happened. Verse 9. "And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land." Can you see that? Verse 11. "Therefore they did set over them taskmasters." This is where the beginning of slavery came. "Taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pythons and Ramses." 12. "But the more they afflict them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor." Can you see that? That's another extreme of I won't call it poverty, I'll call it oppression. They made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, with pain, with agony, with oppression. The slavery started. Let's keep reading. Verse 14. "And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage." Can you see? "In mortar and in bricks, and in all manners of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor." So the nation of Israel to become an automatic slave. They made them to start building the cities. They imposed taskmasters with heavy duties on them. So after this was actually the history that led to that first, I'll call it the first reset. Let me use that word. Though there was a reset before, in the time of Noah, when the Most High Yahuwah wiped the entire earth to reset the whole world and save only Noah, his 3 sons, and their wives. and in greater scriptures, it never said that any of Noah's children has 2 wives. So this goes to the polygamous people out there. So now this was the history of this reset. So now, after this reset, I'm sure you know that the reason why the children of Israel end up to be taken by this wicked king is not for no reason. Sometimes something must have been done wrong somewhere. It is simply because the children of Israel have ended up forsaking the way of Yahuwah, and now they are following the lifestyle of the children of Egypt. That was why this whole thing turned around. Now, after that history, a warning came. I'm not sure they pay attention to that. Let us go there real quick. 2 Chronicles chapter 7. 2 Chronicles chapter 7. I'll take from verse 19 to verse 22. And it says, "But if ye turn away and forsake my statutes and commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them by the roots out of my land, which I have given them, and this house, which I have sanctified for my name, will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword amongst all nations. And this house, which is high, shall be an astonishment to everyone that passeth by it, so that he shall say, Why has the Elohim done this unto this land, and unto this house?" Verse 22. "And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Elohim Adonai of their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath he brought all this evil upon them." Now, the reason why that happened was because right from time, what has been the problem of Israel is to go against the law of Yahuwah, to disobey Yahuwah and go after other gods. Now, after this other king that doesn't know Joseph came to bring this oppression and rigor upon Israel, it was because the Most High has seen that Israel is comfortable living their life unlawfully, living their life like the life of the other nations, serving other idols and stuff. So he brought that upon them because that is his commandment. You break my rules, you break my commandments, then I'll give you up to the enemies. So let us now go real quick. Now, after the history, we have the warning. That is, if they turn away and forsake the statutes and commandments. Now, come and see what happened after the first reset. Remember that Exodus chapter 12, verse 1 and verse 2 that we read earlier, it told us about how Yahuwah took Moses and Aaron and told them that this would be the beginning of months to them, the beginning of the year. So that means all their years in slavery in all of Egypt, the Most High he had used the reset button, and as I did the reset button, the children of Israel are starting all over again at that moment. They are no longer, that means at that point in time, the children of Israel are no longer using the old calendar they are following, which is the Egyptian calendar. They are not more following the old lives in Egypt because it was now a reset. So after that period, what actually happened after the reset? Let us go there real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Remember that after this scripture we're about to read now is what happened after the Most High took the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Let's see what it says. Deuteronomy chapter 28, I'll take verse 15 first to verse 17. It says, "But it shall come to pass that if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Elohim thy Adonai, to observe to do all his commandments and statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." That means these curses, if you refuse to keep my, now that I've taken the land of Egypt, I've given you a new month, a new life, a new everything. Now, if you refuse to keep my commandment and you break any of them, he says he will make curses come upon the children of Israel, not unto those generations alone. He says, but he says, and it shall overtake them. That means that curse is going to overtake them to the future. There are generations to come also as they will also bear this same curse until they get back themselves on track. Verse 16, it says, cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. That is why when we are even at home in our houses, we are still cursed. We have problems at home. If we are not cursed, we live in our life with all peace, all round peace. Verse 17, it says, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Now, that basket in those days is what you use to pack all your harvest. While your store is where you pack all the harvest you have in your basket into the store. But in the modern world today now, it has been changed. When you go out there to work, where is your basket? Your pocket, because anything you earn, you make, it goes into your pocket, into your purse first. And after that, it goes into your bank account. So your bank account happens to be your store right here. Yeah, sorry for that. I'm actually happy. I'm getting dehydrated. So in verse 21, it says, and the Adonai shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed you from off the land, whither you go to possess it. Can you see that? These are one of those things that happened to us simply because we broke the commandment. After the first reset, giving us a new month, a new year, a new life, he said this is going to happen if we break the commandment again. Verse 37, let me just rush that. It says, thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Elohim shall lead thee. Is it not happening? Now today we have the people actually, the people of color, let me use that word. We have the people of color now scattered abroad, and we are being called by words, by astonishment. That is why today, an average Edomite, let me use that word, or an average racist who hates people of color can easily open their mouth and call us names. They call the black people, they call them monkeys, they call them the N-word, they call them, they try to describe them just like animals. It's all the bywords and the proverbs. Why do you think the white man will say that if you want to hide anything from a black man, keep it in a book? It's a proverb because it's one of the curses. Let's move further. Verse 43. It says, the stranger that is within thy land, the stranger that is within you shall get up above you very high, and you shall come down very low. And he shall lend to you, and you shall not lend to him. And he shall be the head, and you shall not, and you shall be the tail. 45. Moreover, it says, all these curses shall come upon you, and shall pursue you, and overtake you till you are destroyed, because you hearken not to the voice of the Elohim, your Yahuwah, to keep his commandments and the statutes which he commands you. Can you see that? Look at verse 46. And thou shalt be, and there shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. That is why till today, all these curses in this chapter, actually, you can only be able to trace them back on those people of colors. Who is that set of people that are being called by words? That they are an astonishment, they are a proverb, they are like a curse. Most especially, most of I'll call them the undiluted breed of Israel, who are right in Africa. Even our fellow brothers who were taken years ago, they look at us as the bad people, knowing that we are actually their brothers. Some so-called organizations teach their members that anybody from Africa is descendant of Ham. It's all lies. These are all the whole madness actually spreading around there. So that's it. Verse 48. It says, "And thou shalt serve thine enemies which the Elohim shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed you." Now he said, he will send. He said, he shall send. I will serve our enemies, right? In hunger. That's why way back we live on natural food. But today, our people living in the states over there, they rely their feeding on GMOs, on healthy food, because that is what the enemy can provide for them. Though we have some like that they are now fully awakened, that they are trying their best to sow their own food. They grow their own food by themselves. These are the wise ones. That is one. Two, he said, and in thirst. Gone are those days in time of our forefathers. They keep water in jars. There's nothing like bottled water. There's nothing like pure water now. It is the enemies that brought up all this whole thing. You can see it with a cup of water, not the one in plastic. Our forefathers never known anything about bottled water. But the enemies that came will depend on their water as well, because it was written. It says, in nakedness, that is why today our forefathers have the best modest cloth. You read your scriptures, imagine the children of Israel led out of Egypt for years. And when they go to the promised land, the scripture says that none of their clothes look worn out. Can you compare the kind of amazing clothes our forefathers wore back then? Whereby when they walk through the wilderness, they are not even cold. But today, we are in a world whereby our people now, due to civilization, serve our enemies in nakedness. Do you know that when it comes to that aspect, our forefathers years ago, they have one of the best clothes. Because imagine the clothes that the children of Israel were wearing to leave the land of Egypt. And despite how many years they spent on the journey, it was never recorded that their clothes worn out or got damaged. But today, we neglect all our modest clothes, we neglect the fringes, and instead our people now they trust the enemies for all the clothes they wear today, such as the booty shorts, such as the jumpsuits, just such as those clothes that expose their body, the clothes that exposes cleavages, this spandex suits, the spaghetti, all those clothes that our women choose to wear out there, including the bikini. Because it was never recorded that in the land of Israel, even in the summertime, that any Israelite woman wore the bikini to go to the seaside to say she's experiencing the vacation of the summer. The enemy brought all this madness upon us. Now we see our women dressed almost naked and they are never ashamed. Why? Because we trust our enemies for want of all things. Just look at it. The Netflix you watch, the internet you use, is provided by the same enemies. That's why some people actually, they're even afraid of leaving their children with the TV. Because right while they are streaming the TV to watch any movie on Netflix, any kind of thing can pop up. You can end up seeing things like these alphabets, let me use that word, the alphabet group videos, bringing sodomy to the children's view, and all sorts of things. Let's read further. We'll take verse 40. I'm taking verse 48. Let me take verse 49. It says, and the Elohim shall bring a nation against you from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. That is why today, which nation actually has that sign of the eagle? Even right from time, we try to go back in time and look at the currencies they use, starting from Greece and others. And the present one today is the United Snakes of America. How do you identify them? Even their coat of armor is recognized with the eagle. And let us ask ourselves, if not for the enemy's handwork, Israel actually, they never speaking English language. We had our own language back then. But today, the enemies gave us this language we are speaking. That's why it says that we know that a nation whose tongue we shall not understand. On a good day, no average Israelite back then understands English. English was never our language. Even right here in Nigeria, if not for the so-called slave masters that came to colonize us in Nigeria, our forefathers don't even understand English. They speak our native dialect, our native language. That is what I speak. Like I told people actually, I'm from the tribe of Yahuda, in which on this side of Nigeria we call ourselves the Yorubas. Even some of our words actually almost transit with the culture of Israel. Talking about our languages, talking about the way of life, the marriage right and stuff, even though some people come up with their own madness. It's also in the same tribe of the Yorubas, was where they let them know a lot of things. The greater of the biblical abominations are what also abominations too. But the madness of all things are clean, they choose to eat everything. They eat even the unclean thing in the forest. Let's just look at this. Verse 15 says, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the persons of the old, nor shew favor to the young. Yes, when the slave masters came here to Nigeria to take our people as slaves through the so-called Badagry slave port. For those who have never heard about that in Nigeria, if you get to Badagry today, say you are going to Badagry slave trade, then you will see the slave port. You will see how they dealt with our forefathers. There is even a well in Badagry called the Well of Truth. They might call the Well of Truth, but it's actually a lie. It is a poisoned well, whereby any slave that tries to escape or they try to force things on you and you don't want to listen, you tend to drink that water and you are dead and gone. There's another book they call the Forest of No Return. That is one of the forests whereby our forefathers was trying to follow to escape. But the funny thing is this, the majority of you don't understand the fact that our forefathers way back don't have access to book and pen. So what they do is, with their woolly hair, when they walk on the farm, they end up going ahead to look at the tracks at which they follow in the farm for a way of escape. So when they return, they do those marks as braids on their head. So that with the braid on their head, they can able to locate that this was the part I started from, this was where I branched, and so on and so forth. That's why we're able to have some of our people who escaped from Nigeria here to another country. But yet they never knew that. Though we have different slave masters, but they are actually all here to take us as slaves. We have some Nigerians that escaped down to the Republic. This is actually next to Nigeria. We have some that escaped to Togo, some that escaped to Cote d'Ivoire, that's Ivory Coast. Just name it. But they never tell you all this in history. This same fierce nation, they took the old, they took the young. They never cared about anything. They killed the young, they killed the old. So now tell me, is that enough to wake us up? Because this is a strong warning of this old false reset. So without wasting much time, I'm sure we know about verse 64 where it says we are scattered among all people. That's why today we have people of color scattered among all nations. And also as well in verse 68 it says that, and Elohim shall bring you into Egypt again with ships. Remember at first when he went to the land of Egypt, it was by road. He never went through ship, it was by foot. When he said that they will be brought to Egypt by ship, don't think the Egypt there is talking about the real so-called Egypt. The term Egypt actually simply means the house of bondage. It simply means the house of bondage. So now we'll be taken back to the house of bondage in ships. That is why the first slave ship that came to steal people in Africa was called Jesus, in case you don't know. So the name again actually is a name of that slave ship that came here to take our people into worst pain. So after the first reset, and after the warning, then things start happening. And people end up still breaking the commandment. They fell back into sin. And that is what caused the modern day slavery. Remember how it happened? The Trans-Sahara slave trade, where the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, took the people of Israel as slaves for over 1,000 years before the so-called transatlantic slave trade came up. All this actually were never taught to anyone in history. But the thing is this, if you actually love yourself, you try to find the truth from the history. So after that, then our people, after so many years of being brainwashed to follow sort of man-made religion and stuff, then the beginning of another awakening start happening. How did that happen? Let's go to scriptures. 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14. 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14. And it says, and if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and I will forgive their sins and I will heal their land. 15. Now my eyes shall be opened and my ears attend unto the prayers of that is made in this place. Why did he say that? That is when his ears are opened. Why? It says, if my people who are called by my name, who are called by the name of Yahuwah, Israel. He says people can humble themselves and pray. That is why now, of recent, maybe in the early 90s, then people start awakening to this truth. Though we understand that it's so ugly, the majority of those who will awaken to the truth in that early 90s are the Pharisees. Though they are doing their job to spread the truth, they want to teach, they wake everybody. I know why I use the word everybody. Remember the scripture says something in the book of Matthew chapter 22 verse 14. It says, many are called, but few are chosen. So when I mean call this word everybody, I mean all those who were chosen to awaken to the truth. Many are called unto this truth. Even the Pharisees and all their followers are called to the truth, but very few are chosen. Let me now prove that to you. The book of Zechariah chapter 13. Zechariah 13 verse 8 and verse 9. And it says, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Elohim, two parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. Now remember the scripture said earlier in Matthew chapter 22 verse 14 that many are called, but few are chosen. Those men that are called is the entire awakening nation of Israel. That's the full 100%. that are awakened. But those few that are chosen is that third part that will be saved. So that means 2 parts out of the many that are called will be cut off and die. So for those Pharisees teaching that those many that 2 parts that will be cut off and die are those that are not in the truth is a lie. Romans 6:23 says that for the wages of sin is death. So whoever is not even in the truth, forget about it. They are ordained to condemnation. They are ordained to death. But when it just says that 2 parts shall be cut off, does the word cut off means cut off from being a black race? No, it means cut off from being an awakened nation of Israel. And this applies to those so-called Roman Israelites. Let me use that word. That's those Israelites who read the Bible like a novel. They never understand that Isaiah 28 verse 10 and verse 13 that said that precept must be upon precept. That is why they will never get understanding. They know themselves. They might watching these classes, they know themselves. So at what benefit will it be for you not to be awakened fully? To know that yes, you are already walking the path of those 2 parts of you that will be cut off and die. That means all your years taking in the truth is so wasted. I pity you all. Also, going to the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 13. Let me go there real quick. Because this is the beginning of the awakening. So since it says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then will he hear from heaven and he will heal their land. But the question is this: after he healed their land, what actually did he expect of them? What initially did the Most High Yahuwah expect of these his people who are called by his name? Ecclesiastes. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 13. And it says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahuwah and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of a man. So that means after the first reset and Israel still messed up, now that we're beginning to be awakening, after he has said that if we his people who are called by his name can humble ourselves and pray, then after that we need to do what? Keep his commandment, because it's the whole duty he's giving to us. So, okay, if that be the case, why did he ask us to keep his commandment? Look at verse 14. He said, for Yahuwah shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So when he said that, keep the commandment, because the commandment actually is the only thing that is good. But when you don't keep the commandment, actually, he says you still bring judgment to everything, both good and evil. So that means all your years in the truth, keeping hypocritical laws. I'm sorry for you. Also, as for those of you who are spending years in the truth, but you are followers of these so-called Pharisees who set up camps and lie to you that they are the chosen ones, giving themselves ranks. It's so painful that you all are on the wrong path. That's left to me, it's all of my business. So let's go back with scriptures, because listen, in this truth we don't deal with emotions. Because the time will come when Yahuwah will send his son Yahusha to return. And at that point, he ain't playing no games with the commandments. So anybody who messes up with the commandments, he might give an order and let the person next to you to strut you up with a sword. But at that point, there will not be emotions anymore. Blood won't be a problem for no one. It's nothing like, well, it's my brother. No. Once the order is given, take the sword and do what you're asked to do. That's just it. So let's go further. Once we keep the commandment according to Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 13. So what else actually is one of those things that is the criteria of this awakening to this next reset? The book of Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. And it says, Gather yourself together, O ye, gather together, O nation not desired. Now, this scripture here said to gather ourselves together as a nation. It's never said, O ye, gather yourselves together as an organization. So for those of you who are in the world of saying, yeah, you need to join my fellowship, you need to this, you need to that, listen. The scripture says, whenever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there will I be. But the thing is this, if in your so-called gathering, it is the name of the leadership that you all adore in your gathering, I'm sorry to tell you this, Yahuwah is not even in your midst. Yahuwah ain't in your midst. So you're saying that just join my organization, join my camp, this and that. Listen, if you are not keeping it real 100% with the scriptures or following what scripture says, then I'm sorry to tell you this, you are on the wrong path. We are here to gather a nation. We are not here to segregate the nation. So when you the mentality of saying that we don't affiliate, the problem is on you and your leadership. Because leadership actually is just there to gather the 2/3 of the that will be destroyed. And you are happily following him. Remember that Jeremiah 17 verse 5 says, "First give them and protect the land." For you to be following what those mortal men are telling you, because now you acknowledge those mortal men above the most high. You trust them that by Yahuwah. So definitely you are cursed by Yahuwah. And your reward is destruction. Forget about it. Also, let's go further. Judges chapter 5 verse 11 it says, and they that are delivered from the noise of ashes in the places of drawing waters. In the drawing waters, place of drawing waters, there will have the righteous acts of the Elohim, even the righteous acts towards the inhabitants of his village in Israel. Then shall the people of the Elohim go down to the gate. So, after the first reset, this is the beginning of that. After this first reset, you can see that it says, when we as people wake up to this truth and humble ourselves and pray, satisfy His commandments, then He said that we will have the righteous act. Why did He say that we will have the righteous act? Because the coming reset will not be the reset of grace. Remember that the children of Israel that left the land of Egypt way back. They left the land of Egypt even still having the lifestyle of the Egyptians in them, which is actually sin. They live their life without the commandment of Yahuwah. But at this next reset, it is a reset whereby those that will be qualified to be among the few that will be chosen are those who are following the ordinance and the commandments, laws and statutes of Yahuwah. So, to avoid any excuse of saying that I know nothing about the commandment, in that kingdom, it will not be accepted, because as at now, we are here to start enhancing those righteous acts by putting those commandments into condition and doing them. So after that awakening, what is the next thing? It is the next reset. And with the next reset, let us see how it's going to happen. Revelation chapter 21, verse 12. And it says, and had a great wall high, and had a great wall and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names therein written therein, which are the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. So that means in the next reset happening, it's going to be a kingdom that has a great gate that is great and high, having 12 angels, not 12 robots, not 12 humans that you can bribe with tips, no. 12 fearsome angels. And on those gates are written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, which simply means in the next reset, there is no gate for Christianity, no gate for Islam, no gate for Buddhism, no gate for atheists, no gate for Roman Hebrew Israelites. Let me use that word. Why? Because These Roman Hebrew Israelites, I see them as those Israelites that read the Bible like a novel and never understand it like the scriptures written in precepts. Those that still follow the mentality and the theology of Christianity. On that day, we ain't going to the kingdom. Also, as well, for those who think that Israel is about building up organizations and camps, in the kingdom, no gate for you. Because since your leadership in your camp policy says you don't affiliate with other Israelite community or whatever. Meanwhile, Israel is meant to gather together as a nation. So that means in the kingdom, don't expect to see the gate of your camp there. Because in the kingdom we have the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, not the names of camps such as HOI, such as GOCC, such as GMS, such as AOI, such as GOCC, such as ICPK, such as FO, such as SICARI, such as RUIC, or just name the so-called alphabet camp. When the Messiah returns, and in that kingdom, you will not have the gate of your own camp. So since you are with that mentality of saying that you don't have to other Israelites, then get ready to know now that we are among the 2/3 of Israel that will be destroyed because there's no gate for the organization. Also, to move further, I know a lot of you will be like, is what is brother saying? Is it true? Yeah, let us see. Let us see. Remember that it said that in that kingdom we will be having the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. Look at what is written. Who are those people that will be qualified to go through those 12 gates? Mark chapter 24 verse 14 says, "For many are called, but few are chosen." Now, why did he say that many are called and few are chosen? Who are those many that are called? And who are those few that are chosen? Why will it be that he will call many and choose only few? Truly, if he said that he want to call many and choose many, those same many will end up getting in there to mess up. The same way our forefathers left the land of Egypt and messed up. Look at those who are called and those who are chosen. Zechariah 13, verse 8 and verse 9. It says, "And it shall come to pass that in all the land, that the land of all the earth, where the 12 tribes of Israel are being scattered abroad, saith the Elohim, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die." When he said that cut off, so that means he's not talking about they are being cut off from being a black nation or the nation of the colored. No. He's saying that 2 parts shall be cut off and die. That is 2 parts of the awakened nation of Israel, which is the 2 parts of that many that are called. That 2 parts of those men that are called will be destroyed, while the 3rd part are those few that are chosen. And remember, they actually did that 2 parts that we cut off and die. Where are they today? They are in the camps. Because they entrust their trust on those teachings that those mortal men taught them. And they choose to follow the policies and the Pharisee laws we give to them. And now today they are out there eating on their brothers for telling them the truth. Because the way they step into that camp, the way they are registered among the 2 parts will be destroyed. What a pity. So, even now, as we have seen now that many are called, few are chosen. So it is only that 3rd part of Israel that is awakening to be the true chosen ones that have been saved, that are going to go through that 12 gates. Yes, it's true, but is that fully true? Let us see further. Who also will go through that 12 gates after that 2 parts of Israel have been cut off and destroyed? Isaiah chapter 14. Isaiah 14 verse 1. Isaiah chapter 14. I say, I take verse 1 down to verse 2. It says, "For the Elohim will have mercy upon Jacob and will yet choose Israel, not the whole world, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined unto them. Who are these strangers? Let us see. And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob, and the people, verse 2, and the people shall take them and bring them into their place. So that means the people here are those one part of Israel who are the few that are chosen. They will take these strangers, they will take them into their place. The house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Elohim, servants and handmaid. So that means these so-called strangers that might follow us through that 12 gates, that they will not be there to be on the same level as Israel, but instead they will be the servants and the handmaids of Israel in that kingdom. But now, they say strangers. Who are these strangers? It says, further that verse 2, it says, and they shall take them captive. Whose captive they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So that means the strangers that will be joined to the land of the children of Israel to go through that 12 gates are the oppressors that oppressed us back then. They are the captive that took our forefathers captive back then. Which means the other nations that have wronged our forefathers are those same nations that will now follow us to the kingdom to go and serve their, should I call it, an infinite judgment, or should I call it an infinite slavery, or should I call it an infinite jail time? Because the same way they oppressed us, it will be a reversed case in the kingdom. So that means even in the next reset, we'll be having many Israelites that will go, but very few will be chosen. As the two parts of their wicked nation shall be cut off and die, yet we have the one part that are left, having the strangers joined to us to work in the kingdom as servants and bondmen. Okay, aside from that, let us ask ourselves, among these few that are chosen, can we now try to know more about these few who are chosen? Revelation chapter 7. Revelation chapter 7, I think from verse 1. Now, and it says, and after these things I saw angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the wind, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on the tree. 2. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Elohim, and he cried with a loud voice unto the four angels to whom it was given to guard the earth. That is, those angels who are assigned to bring judgment upon this earth. Verse 3, saying, ought not the earth, neither the tree, neither the sea, nor the tree, till we have sealed the servants of our Elohim in their forehead. And I heard the numbers of them which were sealed. And there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So that means those few that are even chosen, that they are 144,000 of the 12 tribes of Israel. If we read further from that verse 5 down to verse 8, we see how it even gives the total breakdown, how we assigned it. 12,000 of the servants from each tribe of Israel. Look at what happens next. Verse 9. It says, and after this I behold, lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, all of all nations and kindred and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robe and palms in their hands. So who indeed actually are these? How this multitude that they say? Remember we read earlier that in the book of Isaiah chapter 4 verse 1, where it says, in that day, that's on the day of judgment, that will be having 7 women telling to one man that they don't need the money, they don't need your clothes, they don't need whatever. All they need is just to bear your name. Simply because in the kingdom we have a multitude of sisters who bring to the kingdom and the brothers. Fine, I understand the fact that the scripture itself says that women should not teach this and that, but I'm telling you, plain truth. Majority of our sisters are taking this truth more serious than the brothers. The brothers are just being controlled like robots. As they follow these so-called Pharisees, they follow them foolishly, just like a dumb dog shaking its head, going to slaughter. That is why in that same kingdom, we are having more sisters that will make it to the kingdom, and even more children than the so-called brothers we have in truth today. The brothers will think it's by you keeping your beards, by you going out there to go and do street teachings. Listen, the same way the scripture says that in that day that some people would say to the Most High that I cast out demons in your name, I do things in your name. He said he would tell them, go away from me, I know you not, you will call me. That is the same way the majority of these so-called brothers in the camps will be sent away by Yahuwah. I don't know them, even though they have been the one always going out to go and camp on the streets, to go and teach and cast out demons, curse out people. Then if you don't repent, you're gonna die. Aside from the women and sisters that made it to the kingdom, among those so much also as well are the children, those pure in spirit. And when the scripture says that, forsake not the children, for it is them that is in the kingdom of God. These same children, he said, the kingdom of heaven is like unto children. To tell you that they have a pure soul. They are not like the so-called brothers we have today, who are of the age of 20 and not enough to do so. Say because my leadership said we are going to other Israelites, that brother doesn't talk to them. That is what we call it. I will call it an indirect hate. It's a demon. Also, as well, remember the scripture says in the book of Isaiah chapter 4 verse 2. Let's read further. It tells how that in the kingdom, let me read it. Isaiah chapter 4 verse 2, as we're still talking about this same multitude in the kingdom. What's going to happen after the chosen ones are selected, and the multitude, what's going to happen next? Isaiah 4 verse 2 says, in that day, that's the judgment, after the fulfillment of being done, the branch of the Elohim will be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. Who are those that are escaped of Israel? Those are the few that are chosen, the one part of Israel that are chosen, who after all the trials and tribulation of this truth, they endured till the end, and they end up getting saved as they escape the snare to fall among the tears that will be destroyed afterwards. Also don't forget, after this whole thing, the same way he told us in Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8, he said that it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Elohim, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, and the 3rd part shall be left therein. So, in the next reset, Yahuwah is not dealing with the much number. If you like, go and do 10,000 man march on the street of the US. That's your problem. If you like, do 1 million man march with your Power Rangers uniform. It's your problem. Yahuwah is not even looking at that. He is looking for those, his own true servants, that will leave aside all their pride and do his work with all their soul. Not those who are added to cause division, to cause separation, to cause all sorts of doctrines and stuff. He's not looking for those as a servant, no. You all know that if Yahuwah is to count the awakened people in this truth. We have over 144,000 Israelites that are waking already as we speak. Is it the brothers in Nigeria we're talking about? The brothers in Ghana, in Liberia, in Kenya, in Shanghai, in Turkey, in US, and I'm sure you know in US is where you have the most population of African Israelites. Even right here in Nigeria, we have some set of so-called Jewish Israelites. That is the Igbo tribes. They claim to be the Jewish Israelites. They call themselves Orthodox Israelites. They follow the 5 books of the scriptures. All these ones actually, calculate them together, there were over 144,000. But yet, the Most High has not sent His Son to come back. Because all those numbers that we have out here are not the numbers of the chosen ones. They are the numbers of the many who are called. So to round this all up, Zephaniah chapter 3, let us see what happens after the whole gathering of the multitude or the whole judgment that comes upon the earth. It says, therefore, wait upon me, saith the Elohim, until the day that I rise up in to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation. Check out the word indignation. It means pure or righteous anger. Not just right now, extreme anger, indignation. Not just that alone. It says, even all my fierce anger. It never says some. You want to pour all his fierce anger. Why? Because he's like, how will you look like as a father? You look how some strangers are beating up your child. But because the child has not called on you for help, you can't just assist the child. Do you think if at the end of the day your child called for help, you as a father who is being pained, how your child is being dealt with, you will deal with that stranger mercilessly? The same way Yahuwah will pour all his fierce anger on all nations, including the so-called awakened Israelites that falls to be among the 2 parts with the cut off and die. He won't spare you. And it says, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured. He never says some. All the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. So the question is this, to those of you who are after the justice of this world, those who keep buying lands, building luxurious houses, buying one of the best multi-$1,000 cars, those of you who are out there thinking, all I just want is to travel the whole world for vacation. All the so-called money you said you're keeping up in your account, when you don't even know the actually that you are bushel return. How will it sound like when all these things you are laboring for here on earth get burnt before your face in the fierce fire of Yahuwah's jealousy? Look at verse 9. He said, for then, as after you have done all these things, then will I turn to the people in pure language, that they may call upon the name of the Elohim to serve him with one consent. That is why when Yahushua returns, though my 20 different languages, let us start from Africa. Let them do with African country, for example. Nigeria, where I came from, we have over 220 languages right here in Nigeria. Over 220 languages. How many languages they speak in Ghana, in Kenya, in South Africa, in Swaziland? Even in that of South Africa, the little I know, I still know. I know that I think it's in Kenya, they speak Swahili. Some parts in South Africa, they speak Ishizulu, they speak Zulu. Some speak Swahili, some speak Setswana, some speak, and just many languages. But when Yahushua returns, Yahuwah will give all of us one language. So my question is this, how ready are you for the next future set? Are you prepared to be among the few that are chosen, or you are still playing games and among the men that are called who will be destroyed afterwards. With this, I'll bring it to a close for today's class. I pray you all are well. I pray you get edified with this class. See you same time next week. And for those of you who would like to contact me via WhatsApp, you can contact me through the words app number on the screen. If you wish to send me email, you can have my email right here. You can email me. Everybody can discover me and discuss about. If you have questions, feel free to drop your questions on my WhatsApp number. Drop your questions there, and I'll give you all the answers you need. And also, as well, Yahoo as well, I'm sure we're getting where I've seen the post on Facebook about the children mentorship program, which we call Yahuwah's Soldier, whereby we gather the sons of all our single sisters in this room. We know that the single sisters are trying to train the children all alone, but because there is no father figure out there for them, it becomes so tedious for them. So we're using this program to gather the children, the male children of our sisters, and we train them in the scriptures, build them to be soldiers, so that they can start taking responsibilities as a man, so that they can feel that fatherly figure, taking them through the scriptures to edify them and to grow. Remember, Proverbs 22 verse 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, so when he's old, he will not depart from it. Also as well, for the single brothers out there, for the single sisters out there as well, we'll also be having a counseling session for you all as well, whereby for the brothers who are thinking about how am I going to get married, how am I going to get a wife, the things I need to look about if you're getting a wife, things like that. It's a counseling session for both brothers and sisters on what to sit down and think, sit down and reason, sit down and contemplate about when you're trying to choose that partner, that lifetime partner you want to call your husband or your wife. Because as a man, as a brother, it is better for you to settle with a wife than to settle with a woman. Because a woman will bring you confusion, but a wife will bring you good things. The scripture says, he who findeth a wife findeth a good thing. Also, for you sisters, if truly you can settle yourself down or give yourself to Yahuwah, come undergo this counseling. You can be able to know how to search for a husband who will love you as Yahushua loved the church, instead of you to get a man who will only love you because of his lust, and when he's done with you, he runs. So with this, I would like to say Shalom Bakazak Mashpaka, stay strong, stay in faith, stay in the spirit. See you same time right here on GCTV.